He was an orphan who never met his father, yet became America's most famous preacher before Billy Graham. Billy Sunday's story is not just about religious revival, but about a man who used every gift God gave him, including his lightning speed and athletic prowess, to reach a generation desperately searching for meaning in a rapidly changing world. William Ashley Sunday was born on November 19, 1862, in a humble two-room cabin near Ames, Iowa. His father died while serving in the Civil War when Billy was just a month old, leaving his mother unable to support her children. Born into poverty, Sunday spent some years at the Iowa Soldiers' Orphans Home before working odd jobs and playing for local running and baseball teams. When Billy was 10 years old, his impoverished mother sent him and an older brother to the orphanage in Glenwood, Iowa, and later to the Iowa Soldiers' Orphans Home in Davenport. At the orphanage, Sunday gained orderly habits, a decent primary education, and the realization that he was a good athlete. By 14, Sunday was shifting for himself. In Nevada, Iowa, he worked for Colonel John Scott, a former lieutenant governor, tending Shetland ponies and doing other farm chores. The Scotts provided Sunday a good home and the opportunity to attend Nevada High School. Although Sunday never received a high school diploma, by 1880 he was better educated than many of his contemporaries. In 1880, Sunday relocated to Marshalltown, Iowa, where, because of his athleticism, he had been recruited for a fire brigade team. In Marshalltown, Sunday worked at odd jobs, competed in fire brigade tournaments, and played for the town baseball team. His speed and agility provided him the opportunity to play baseball in the major leagues for 8 years. Sunday grew up as an orphan and worked as an undertaker's assistant before entering professional baseball in 1883. In his debut on May 22nd, he was fanned 4 times by Grasshopper Jim Whitney of Boston. It is true that Sunday did not develop into much of a hitter, hitting .259 over his 8-year career, but he was a good outfielder and an excellent base runner. He closed out his career with 84 steals with Pittsburgh and Philadelphia in 1890. Sunday was never much of a hitter, but he impressed fans with his acrobatic diving catches and his base running. The transformation that would change everything happened in 1886. In 1887, while still a ball player, Billy heard hymns outside the Pacific Garden Mission in Chicago. Drawn in by the music, he began attending services and was soon converted to Christianity. He and some baseball teammates, after getting tanked up in a Chicago saloon on a Sunday afternoon, stopped at the Pacific Garden Mission to listen to an evangelistic group singing the gospel hymns that I used to hear my mother sing back in the log cabin in Iowa. Invited inside, Sunday liked what he heard. He returned again and again until one night, he went forward and publicly accepted Jesus Christ as his Savior. Subsequently, he gave up drinking, gambling, swearing, and going to the theater. He even refused to play baseball on Sunday. His transformation was real and lasting. He began to attend Jefferson Park Presbyterian Church, and in 1888 he married Helena Nell Thompson, a member of the congregation. In the spring of 1891, Sunday turned down a baseball contract for $3,500 a year to accept a position with the Chicago YMCA at $83 per month. He turned down lucrative baseball contracts and took a $1,000 a year job at the Chicago YMCA, launching a new career path, urban evangelism. For 3 years, Sunday visited the sick, prayed with the troubled, counseled the suicidal, and visited saloons to invite patrons to evangelistic meetings. In 1893, Sunday became the full-time assistant to J. Wilbur Chapman, one of the best-known evangelists in the United States at the time. Chapman was well-educated and was a meticulous dresser, suave and urbane. Chapman also critiqued Sunday's own attempts at evangelistic preaching and showed him how to put a good sermon together. Further, Chapman encouraged Sunday's theological development, especially by emphasizing the importance of prayer and by helping to reinforce Billy's commitment to conservative biblical Christianity. When Chapman unexpectedly returned to the pastorate in 1896, Sunday struck out on his own, beginning with meetings in Tiny Garner, Iowa. For the next 12 years, Sunday preached in approximately 70 communities, most of them in Iowa and Illinois. Sunday referred to these towns as the kerosene circuit because, unlike Chicago, most were not yet electrified. He launched his solo revival ministry in 1896. There he first became aware that his direct, sincere manner of speaking got through to people. Sunday also took advantage of his reputation as a baseball player to generate advertising for his meetings. In the days of his kerosene circuit, Sunday used his fame as a former baseball player as a way to attract attendees. This proved to be a successful strategy. Within 2 years, Sunday had developed a special sermon on temperance, booze, or get on the water wagon. He used it for the first time in Burlington, Iowa, and a few days later the town limited the hours saloons could be open. Billy Sunday became one of the most dynamic preachers in American history. His sermons were theatrical, physical, and unforgettable. He would act things out, run across the stage, take off his coat and roll up his sleeves, throw chairs at the devil, and in other ways deliver a lively sermon. His trademarks were pointed, sometimes earthy, and always quotable one-liners, and theatrical antics at the podium. Thereafter, he insisted that towns build him temporary wooden tabernacles at their expense. The tabernacles were comparatively costly to build, although most of the lumber could be salvaged and resold at the end of the meetings, and locals had to put up the money for them in advance. Sunday resorted to preaching in tents because there were not any buildings large enough to accommodate the crowds that flocked to hear him speak. Later, his meetings were held in temporary wooden meeting places called tabernacles. At least at first, raising tabernacles provided good public relations for the coming meetings as townspeople joined in what was effectively a giant barn raising. By 1910, Sunday began to conduct meetings usually longer than a month in small cities like Youngstown, Wilkes-Barre, South Bend, and Denver, and then finally, between 1915 and 1917, the major cities of Philadelphia, Syracuse, Kansas City, Detroit, Boston, Buffalo, and New York City. Sunday was ordained a Presbyterian minister in 1903. Careful planning went into the Crusades, and teamwork was essential. A Sunday campaign resembled a vaudeville show as much as a mission. In 1909, Homer A. Rodeheaver, a song leader and trombone player, joined Sunday's troupe, and the tabernacle rang with music and excitement in the build-up to Sunday's explosive sermons. It was his wife, Nell, who served as administrator, organizing campaigns and laying out the details. In Chicago, Sunday met and eventually married Helen A. Nell Thompson, daughter of a dairyman and ice cream manufacturer. A staunch Presbyterian and devoted worker in the Christian Endeavor Society, Nell influenced Sunday to begin attending the Jefferson Park Presbyterian Church. Nell eventually played a prominent role in Sunday's evangelistic crusades, handling much of the hiring and firing of personnel and other business decisions, as well as protecting his rest periods and smoothing over problems brought on by his quick temper and his overgenerosity with time and money. By the New York campaign of 1917, the Sundays had a paid staff of 26. The peak of Billy Sunday's career came during World War I. Sunday pulled into Penn Station in April 1917 for a series of highly publicized revivals that would run 10 weeks. His arrival in a private Pullman car was greeted by almost 5,000 people. Sunday actually had his very own temporary tabernacle built for him on Broadway and 168th Street, on the site of Hilltop Park, former home of the New York Highlanders, later to become the New York Yankees. The tabernacle, constructed in New York in 1917, held 18,000 people. From April 8th until June 19th, 1917, Sunday engaged thousands with his messages and wild, half-crazed performances. In New York City 1917, he preached to over 1.5 million people in 10 weeks. He gave the entire $120,465 offering to war charities. In Chicago, he donated another $65,000 to the Pacific Garden Mission. No other evangelist of his day had such reach or gave so much away. The apex of his career was in 1917, during World War I, when 98,000 people hit the Sawdust Trail, came forward for commitment or recommitment to Christ during a 10-week revival in New York City. Following the lead of the American evangelist Dwight L. Moody, and with the aid of a choir director named Homer A. Billy Sunday was also prominent in the movement to prohibit liquor sales in the United States. He was a passionate advocate for temperance, declaring whiskey and beer are all right in their place, but their place is in hell. Within 2 years after his New York crusade, Congress would prohibit the sale of alcohol with the 18th Amendment, something Sunday was instrumental in promoting. He was unequivocally clear that church attendance could not save you. Going to church does not make you a Christian any more than going to a garage makes you an automobile. Sunday's popularity waned after World War I, when many people in his revival audiences were attracted to radio broadcasts and moving pictures instead. Billy Sunday died of a heart attack on November 6, 1935 in Chicago. He was buried in Forest Hills Cemetery in Chicago. The famous evangelist was controversial, and some considered him out of step with his time, but he was credited with aiding the cause of temperance, and many communities were cleaned up by his revival campaigns. Billy Sunday's story is often misunderstood. He did not die penniless. He died spent, having poured out his life in the service of others and the cause of Christ. The story of Billy Sunday reminds us that God can take the most unlikely background, an orphan who never knew his father, a baseball player with mediocre hitting skills, and transform it into a platform for extraordinary kingdom impact. Sunday proved that authenticity and passion, combined with a willingness to use every gift God provides, can reach millions of people who might never respond to conventional religious appeals. His theatrical preaching style may have shocked some observers, but it connected with ordinary Americans who were tired of stuffy religion and hungry for genuine spiritual power. The man who ran the bases with lightning speed became the evangelist who ran after souls with the same intensity, and in doing so, left a legacy that influenced American Christianity for generations to come.